So many flavors.
Welcome in. Episode number 14 here on the Stoner Sports Radio podcast. We're going to go through week 13, go through conference championship weekend with you, and then we'll give you our Heisman updates, some changes here and there. We'll go visit the sports book where Cole Murphy had a good weekend and I had a rough one. And then we will go through and re-rank the top 10, go through bowl projections brought to you by The Athletic, go through NBA standings updates along with the NFL, and then close it out with our locks of the week. Mr. Murphy, how are we doing this week?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Doing good. All right.
Should have been a perfect week for me, but Oregon and Ohio State decided to blow it.
Oh, more than just blow it. We'll touch on that for sure. Let's get right into it. So big weekend, week 13. Lots to go over. Let's start with Georgia and Georgia Tech. The Bulldogs take care of the Yellow Jackets 37-14 and stamp their way into the SEC championship game for sure, even though that was a non-conference game anyways. It keeps them in the college football playoff running. Not really much to take away from that one, so let's kind of gloss over that and go on to the one that everybody was watching. Ohio State versus Michigan. Michigan blowing out the Buckeyes on their own turf, 45-23. Mr. Murphy, what was your takeaway from the way Michigan just dominated the Buckeyes?
Wow, I mean, very unexpected. Didn't see that coming. That's a bad loss. I mean, after having such a great season this year with Ohio State, losing to Michigan like that with their running back being out, Blake Corum being out of the game, that's very, very embarrassing for Ohio State, and this just ruined their season. Went perfect, and now they lost their chance of the playoffs. So good job to Michigan. I mean, hats off. I think Jim Harbaugh's doing a great job and getting them taken care of. So, I mean, they're going to CPF, so most likely. So.
Yeah, I don't see Purdue being able to pull off the major upset this weekend. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. But they've got a pretty clear path from what we kind of deduce. Moving on to another game everybody was watching, Notre Dame at USC. USC gets it done. They win by 11, 38-27. Notre Dame turned it over twice in the red zone, so they definitely had a chance to make this more of a ball game. I mean, what was your takeaway from the Golden Domers trying to keep it close with the Trojans?
That's what I expected. I mean, I thought it was going to be closer. USC obviously with that such powerful offense and that Heisman candidate Williams being back there quarterback. I mean, it's really hard to stop that guy. It's pretty much impossible, damn near impossible. I mean, with how Notre Dame's defense has been playing as of recently, I thought they were going to do a better job. But, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's hard to contain that guy. And I'm surprised they didn't put up more in USC's defense because they're just atrocious. I mean, they're obviously not that great. So, but, I mean, good win. See what the Trojans can do. Yeah. Notre Dame, I'm glad you guys picked it up. I mean, you guys lost to Marshall in week 2, 3, whatever. And I thought it was just going south for you guys, but you guys turned it around, so good job.
Yeah, surviving in advance is kind of the term used probably there for USC, just trying to continue to rack up those wins. Another game on the slate, number 5 LSU traveled down to College Station to play the piss-poor Texas A&M Aggies, but they couldn't get it done. A&M blows them out 38-23 and kind of pushes LSU out of the conversation for that 4 spot. What was your takeaway from Jimbo Fisher maybe saving his season?
Maybe saving his career as well.
Well, the thing about that is they'd have to pay him like $130 million if they fired him, so I don't think they were going to, but at least maybe it helps the fans a little bit. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you know the Texans got that oil money out there. You know, dig it up and get it to him to get his ass out of there. But I mean, good win, of course. I think that does a lot for Texas A&M's program and just advancing into next year. I think this might help with recruiting a little bit, even though they've had a bad season. But I mean, big win, of course, for Texas A&M there and LSU. What are we doing? Not really sure how you go and beat Alabama and seem like you're on top of the world and fall like that. So I think they just had a bad game, just like Ohio State. I think LSU is a better team than they showed, but I mean, tough loss and definitely eliminate them this year. But decent year for them, so not too bad.
Yeah, it was I mean, like you said, it probably saves some recruiting for A&M. I agree with that.
Yeah,
But overall, the bigger picture, I guess, is just there's no chance LSU is going to creep in to the CFP.
decent ball game at least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Um, Another big game over the weekend. South Carolina upset Clemson at Clemson's home in Death Valley,
Oh
31
yeah,
to
oh
30.
yeah.
Spencer Rattler throws for 360 yards. What was your takeaway from the Gamecocks as they just continue to just beat up on teams that people don't think they're supposed to?
So Spencer Rattler, this guy is playing unbelievable. He's really shown. I think most importantly, this boosts his draft stock. I know he's obviously trying to get to the league and having two big back-to-back wins, beating Tennessee and then Clemson. Just very impressive. And I thought he fell off, honestly, but I mean, very, very impressive from him. I think he is the reason they won. I think this boosts his draft stock back up to where it was at. And obviously millions of more dollars coming his way, and he just really shows the type of quarterback he can be and why he was rated so highly coming out of high school. But I mean, they South Carolina's been playing great these past few weeks. I mean, their defense has stepped up. Their offense is scoring unbelievably, putting up 63 on Tennessee. That's crazy. And then turn around and beat Clemson, which is you already know how I feel about them. But I mean, that's still an impressive win to beat Clemson. So I didn't think the Gamecocks were going to do it this year, but they're getting it done.
Yeah, it was. It's been a good second half of the season for them for sure. Beating Tennessee and then beating Clemson. And here's a game that I was very upset about. My Ducks going on the
Oh
road
no! Oh no!
to Oregon State. They had a 21-point lead with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter and
Oh
blow
gosh!
the lead and lose to their rival 38 to 34. Bo Nix throws for 327 yards, but it was not enough. Um, I mean, all I'm going to say about this game is I'm just disappointed. I mean, you have to be able to close a game out when you're up by 21 with just 18 minutes of gameplay to go. I mean, the collapse that has to take place on both sides of the football for Oregon State to even have a chance to claw back in that game is monumental. I love Dan Lanning. It's only year one. I'm not super pissed about the job he's done this year because I think after game one, when we got blown out by 46 points to Georgia, I think people were like, man, this Oregon team is going to fucking suck. And sure
Yeah,
enough, we didn't lose a game until we decided to choke one off uh, against a very mid Washington team. And then, this game happens and you completely eliminate yourself from the Pac 12 championship game, which hurts because, I mean, sure, I'm not going to rule Utah out of going 2-0 against USC this season, but we saw what it took the first time. So I was kind of interested to see how Oregon would attack that USC defense, and I kind of wanted to see 50 points apiece in the Pac-12 championship. We might get it again. I mean, remember the last time Utah and USC met, it was 46 to 45 Utah. So,
yeah.
we could see points again this weekend regardless. But I mean, obviously, I would have liked to see my Ducks in that game. What was your takeaway from the collapse?
First off and foremost, I'm sorry. I know how big of a Duck fan you are, and that's honestly very embarrassing to be up 21 points with 3 minutes in the third quarter. Honestly, this doesn't, to me, just from my football experience, this doesn't fall on the players. This falls on the coaches. You can't lose a 21-point lead with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. That, as a coach, that falls on you. That does not fall on the players. I don't think the coaches were having the players in the right spots because they obviously had the athletes to get it done. So I mean, very very disappointing. The Ducks would have had a shot this year if they would have won and won the Pac-12. Who knows? They could have been in it. So first, I'm very sorry for the Ducks, but I mean, hopefully they get a good bowl game, right?
Yeah, we'll go through those very soon. But yeah, I mean, it was a good year. I can't really complain with
Yeah.
kind of the cards we were dealt. This season with kind of the rough, obviously the rough week one game, which I told people throw it out. It doesn't really matter. I mean, Georgia was just more prepared. We had a new quarterback, new head coach. It's game one. You're playing the best team in the country at that time, and probably still currently. So I mean, I wasn't super disappointed in where I thought the team was going to go the rest of the year. I really thought they could have gone undefeated the whole entire season. And you see that if you beat Washington the way you were supposed to, and you finish this
Mhm.
game out, you're definitely in the college football playoff conversation,
Most definitely. Most
100%.
definitely.
So I mean, I'm not disappointed in that. Obviously, losing to Washington was more disappointing than this because I felt like that kind of eliminated us to begin with, and that was kind of the downfall. And this just kind of cemented it, And
Yeah.
we'll see if we can bounce back in a bowl game, but definitely not. If we end the year with 2 losses, I'm not going to be super mad. I
Yeah.
think it just heightens my expectations for next year.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say too, very impressive wins from Oregon State. To crawl back from 21 in third quarter. I mean, that's a little bit of magic coming from the Beavers. So I mean, good job there. I think this pushes them up in the rankings, and they should definitely get a better bowl game for doing that.
Yeah, 110%. Another top 25 upset. This one not as big of an upset, but Louisville falls to Kentucky, 26-13. The Wildcats finally stepping up after a couple weeks of disappointing losses. I mean, I don't know what else to take away from this other than it was just an upset. We'll kind of move on from that one. Going down the list here. Okay, here's one that I know you want to talk about. Oklahoma, even though they're sick, they were 6-5 going into this. Even though that's the case, obviously for the local draw here, Oklahoma loses to Texas Tech in overtime, 51-48. Lots of points here. This was your Walmart version of Baker Mayfield versus Patrick Mahomes, with Dylan Gabriel and former Oregon quarterback Tyler Shuck just throwing it all over the place. What was your takeaway from this highly entertaining game?
Let's be real. OU won the game. You've seen the pictures. Everybody's got the footage. OU won. I mean, there's nothing else to really say about that. The Sooners should have never been that. Even though I will hand it to Texas Tech, they're a
Well,
solid program.
okay.
They're
Well,
good.
first of all, it wouldn't have won. It would have forced another overtime.
Yeah,
But you're right. I mean,
yeah.
from what we've seen, yeah. Go ahead.
They should have won. I mean, especially with coming off that impressive win at Bedlam, and we can't do anything better than that. I mean, Texas Tech's solid, but I mean, I just thought the Sooners were going to take care of it coming with that momentum from that Bedlam game. Even though it was away, I mean, I still think the Sooners should have pulled that out, and it would have looked better for just the program. Maybe would have got a little bit better bowl game. But now we're heading to the Texas Bowl. Not sure who we're playing yet, but we're headed to the Texas Bowl, so that's not very fun.
Yeah, well, that's just assumptions. I do have an updated list from the Athletic
Okay,
this
okay,
afternoon,
fair
so
enough.
we'll go through that here in a minute, and we'll see what you think about
Okay,
because they do not have them projected in the Texas Bowl, and we'll go over
okay,
that.
that's good.
Um, it
That's
could
not
be good,
hurting
it
me.
could be
So
bad because your opponent, I don't think you're gonna like it very much. Um,
okay,
but yeah, no, my takeaway from this is exactly kind of the same. Both teams had tons of yards. They combined for like 1,300 yards of offense. The defense was non-existent for both sides of the football, which has been kind of customary for these two teams getting together, which is kind of shocking. Dylan Gabriel throws for 449 yards and a loss. That's a rough pill to swallow, but Tyler Shuck right behind him with like 420
yeah,
something yards. So both quarterbacks just kind of went off. But let's kind of go through that overtime sequence because it was kind of
hmm
awkward for OU because you had a good play on first down. Um, with the back with the reverse pass to Dylan Gabriel, but you knock him out of the football game for a whole entire play. He gets lit up. Jeff Lebby just leaves him out to dry. That safety just comes over and pops the ever living shit out of him. So in comes Davis Bevel to hand it off on second down, and everybody in the stadium knew they're not gonna let Davis Bevel throw the football. Which, in my defense, I
or
think they
run, or run.
Yeah, but I think they should have let him. I think that would have been more effective if you let him, maybe have Braden Willis out on a little tight end outpost or something, some easy route for him to throw it. I wouldn't have been disappointed, but they handed off to Eric Gray. Obviously stuffed. They sent all 11 players just straight to the line of scrimmage, and in comes Dylan Gabriel for 3rd and long, and you can't get it done on 3rd and long. He gets sacked. Trying to escape the pocket, and you force a 34-yard field goal from Schmitty, who's been pretty automatic all year long. The kick starts hooking to the outside, and then once it passes the goalpost, it hooked to the inside. So every single person thought that it had hooked in, you know, before it went past the goalpost. But I think it went past the goalpost and then hooked. But I think, but that it was very close, and I think that it could have been called good. The refs seem to be on top of it. I haven't heard anything back from any of my email contacts or anybody that was at the game or could have known who had the footage from behind that goalpost. We know there were 4 guys back there with cameras. I heard from one of the guys that was back there, Dylan Buckingham, who is on local radio and local sports, is a local sports anchor for News Channel 4. He was saying that from his footage from behind that goalpost, because he was behind there, he goes, I couldn't tell if it was good because I wasn't focusing on the very top of the goalpost. It was more of just a straight shot towards the middle of the goalpost, so the ball isn't even in the footage. And it was a very tall kick by Schmitty, too. I mean, it didn't have to be that tall. It was almost, it was about 3 feet taller than the goalpost itself. I mean, it was a very high kick. And I think that made it even more susceptible to that late hook, which made it look good to everybody in the stands, because everyone's looking at the ball after it crosses that plane. And, the Fox Sports didn't show a replay from that angle. They just showed it live, and they didn't show it again. The slow-mo they have is from the kicker's from the back of the kicker, from halfway across the field. And from that angle, you can't really tell if it's good or no good. And I think that kind of leads into that conspiracy a little more. But like I said, it just forces another overtime. And the way OU is playing, I'm not sure if they would be able to have closed that game out. Just the way the defense played. I mean, because what would have happened is Texas Tech would have gotten the football again because you had it first, so they're going to get it second. They have back-to-back possessions if it's tied at 51. Who knows? If they kick another field goal, maybe OU goes down and scores a touchdown. I mean, it seemed like that kind of game. But, the same thing is we could have gone into multiple overtimes. I mean, it just seemed like nobody wanted to win that game. And for it to come down to the kicker is rough, especially when you have tons of conspiracy behind whether or not the kick was even good. At this point, I think OU fans would have taken the loss that the field goal would have hooked 9 yards to the left and just been completely off, opposed to what many seem to be a extension of that football game. But yeah, that kind of wraps up kind of the big games in last week. I mean, we'll go through a couple other ones, but I mean, Auburn lost to Alabama like they should by 22, 49-27. That game was kind of Washington beats Washington State 51-33. Utah blows out Colorado 63-21. Colorado's just terrible. I mean, those are all the ranked matchups that were left kind of on the slate for last Saturday, and they were kind of snoozers. But that sets us up for this week. So let's get into it. Week 14.
I like that takeaway, by the way, from that OU Texas Tech game. I like the breakdown and takeaway.
Yeah, well, I think that's just, I just think that's the reality of who this football team is, and I
just think to piggyback onto a little bit of what you're saying, I just think with OU, if they would have forced it, I think with them being such evenly teams, I just think it could have gone either way, and I obviously pulling for OU there, so I think they were going to win, but I mean, I think Texas Tech was also good enough to win as well, so I mean, that's all I have to say on that. But I mean, man, you just hate that.
Yeah. You hate for it to end that way. It kind of leaves a lot to be desired because I mean, I would have liked. Obviously, I think you would have liked too a more definitive loss. Like, oh, we lost because of this, instead of like, was it good? Could we have gone another overtime? Would we have stopped them to try another field goal attempt and then gone down and scored? Like, I mean, it seemed like that kind of game. The offense was flowing. You got Marvin Mims out there. You got Theo Weiss. Well, not anymore. Theo's transferring, but I mean, it seemed like Gabriel probably could have led that team down to score a touchdown, and the defense was kind of playing well enough. And I don't think Tyler Show is good enough under pressure From my experience of watching him in an Oregon Ducks uniform and that game, he seemed a little shaky at times. He seemed like that mid-level quarterback that unfortunately has been, killing OU the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But obviously good enough to start D1, and we'll see if they decide to roll with him next season as well. Because that Morton kid looks pretty good, and the only reason he didn't play is he was hurt.
He was an Elite 11 guy.
Yeah, so that's good takeaways here. So let's jump into this week. Obviously tomorrow night, huge conference championship game, Utah and USC. I've done the liberty of going ahead and taking every single conference game as our 5 sportsbook bets. Yeah, I mean, so let's get into this because this has a lot of layers to it. Sure, it would have been interesting to see Oregon in this situation because it would have been a new thing, but I think it's even more interesting to have Utah USC 2 Electric Boogaloo after what went down in Utah earlier this season, as USC, that's their only loss on the schedule, and it took Kyle Whittingham going for 2 in overtime to get that done, 46-45. Nuts on the table. Kyle Whittingham got it done. But this time, this game's being played in Vegas. It's a neutral site. And USC is favored by three points here. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
Of course, I'm pulling for Utah. I mean, I don't like USC. I think they've had a cakewalk this whole season. I'm not saying they haven't played any competition. Don't get me started there. But I think they're a solid team. I just don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like Lincoln Riley. I respect Caleb Williams, but I don't like how he left OU. So of course, respectfully, I'm going for Utah here. I unfortunately I'm gonna have to go with Vegas here. I think USC does cover that 3. I think they actually get it done by 10. But of course, I'm going for the Utes here. I want to see them win. I want to see them crush USC season, and I want to see somebody new sneak in that 4 slot.
Yeah, well, I mean, in devil's advocate here, it would be new to see USC in the Final Four because they haven't been in it. Because the Pac-12 has been dominated by Oregon the last couple of seasons, and they've been the one that's been projected to go to the CFP more than any other team in the Pac-12 since its birth. So I mean, it would be new, but I agree here. Look, obviously, I'm pulling for Utah here. I think that, I mean, obviously, when you win the first time, what do? You go back to that film, you study it, you go, this is what worked, and this is what they are preparing for. Because USC is doing the same thing. They're going through the last game film of that Utah game and going, if we can stop these plays, we can win this game by 20 plus. And Utah knows that too. No one's stupid here. I mean, coaches know what film that these other coaches are looking at. So obviously these game plans from last game, just scrap them. You're not going to see a lot of the same play calls. You might see a couple, but that's the thing, is those coaches don't know which couple of plays that they're going to pull out from there that they think are going to be good. Obviously, Lincoln Riley and Kyle Whittingham are both going to obviously look at the successful plays and know that the teams are going to be prepared for that. But what are the plays where maybe Caleb Williams missed an open guy and they're not looking at that one? That way you run that play again and maybe he hits that pass this time, or a drop, or a run where the running back runs into the offensive lineman instead of hitting the hole, but the hole is there. Those are the plays that Kyle Whittingham and Lincoln Riley vice versa need to look at, because those are the plays you might see again more likely than those successful plays, because those are the plays that the defensive coordinator is going to be ready for and trying to prevent.
To piggyback a little bit off of that, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I think the keys here, I think for Utah, I think if they can find a way to shut Williams down, I think if they can, I don't think they're going to shut that guy down because there's no shutting him down, but I think if they can slow that guy down, maybe even get a late hit, or who knows, get him out, maybe get him out with a little tweak, something, I don't know, any type of little baby injury that might, shoulder or ankle, something. If they can slow that guy down, I think Utah has the advantage here. But I think the key for USC, I mean, if they can just get that offense rolling, and if Caleb Williams can get in his rhythm and his groove like he's been doing all year long, I think USC takes care of it by at least 10 here.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, now my opposite, opposition to that would be if the defense for USC shows up. If they can do what they've done all year, which is force turnovers, they lead the Pac-12 in forcing turnovers over this during the course of this season. And that's kind of been the only way their defense has been able to stop anybody is picking off the ball and forcing fumbles. That's been the top two ways they've stopped drives this season against decent teams. Against bad teams, obviously, you have the advantage of getting pressure because their offensive line isn't good enough, yada, yada, and that forces a whole slew of problems for the opposition. But when it comes to good teams and the way USC has played them, a la USC, Oregon State, Utah, I mean, those three games, very close. UCLA had it if they don't throw that pick. If they don't throw that pick late, if the quarterback doesn't throw into double coverage, they may have gone down and scored the game-winning drive. They were only down by 3 points, so I mean that was huge. You go back to the Oregon State game, tons of chances for the Beavers to win that game. USC only won it by 5. I mean, it was not a dominant performance. And you go back to this game against Utah. I mean, Utah deserved to win that game because they took all the chances, but Kyle Whittingham knew we're the less talented team. We're the team out here that needs to take these chances. USC Lincoln Riley's known for being conservative in the second half. It's hard to do when Utah's defense is not great and your defense isn't great because stopping each other is going to be super hard. And when the offenses are as talented as Cam Rising is with Utah and Caleb Williams is with USC, I mean, this is going to be a game where Lincoln Riley cannot be conservative in the second half. That's how he gets. And it's, and like I said, it's hard to be conservative when your offense is doing so well and they can do anything against the defense because the offense might score quickly regardless. But if one of these defenses steps up and can get multiple stops, that's going to be the key, I think, for who's going to win this football game.
I like that takeaway.
But yeah, that's so you're picking USC to win this thing. I would like Utah to go 2-0 against USC and knock them out, but I'm kind of in agreement. I think USC's got this thing in the bag, probably by multiple scores this time. So yeah, I don't see myself picking against them either. I've got USC winning this game. Yeah,
easy.
So let's move on to Saturday's matchups. It'll start out with a dandy on Saturday. Kansas State playing TCU down in Jerry World. Right now, TCU is a 2.5-point favorite. Coach Kleiman says that quarterback Adrian Martinez may play this game, but Will Howard's been doing a great job.
Very impressive.
So it might be a smokescreen to try to get TCU to waste some practice time on trying to stop a mobile quarterback, and Will Howard is definitely not that. So there's, that could be strategy, but it also, we could see both. We could see both of these guys, and that might be what TCU is preparing for as well. And I think we might see both. Now, if they obviously rule Martinez out at the beginning of the game, obviously we know we're not going to see both. But I mean, it's still up in the air, and they're trying to float that around. What are your takeaways, and what do you think is going to happen on Saturday?
I think this game's going to come down to the wire. I think they're two very competitive and very great football programs from K-State and TCU. Obviously, TCU, amazing year, very looking unbeatable. Already took care of the Wildcats in the regular season by 10. So I like the 2.5, 2+ spread here. I think TCU was going to get it done, but I think the Wildcats are going to put up a fight. I think their offense is going to be scoring, and I think their defense is going to step up. So, I think this is going to be the most challenging game TCU has had thus far this season. But I think TCU pulls it out here. But, hey, Wildcats are going to give it a shot.
Yeah, you have to think about, this is one of those games that TCU was down by 10+ points to Kansas State last time they played. Same with Oklahoma State, same with a bunch of teams this year where they were behind the 8 ball, looking to try to have to claw their way back into these games. I'm going to be straight up right now. They can't do that this weekend. There's no way you can go down by two. Now if you go down 2 scores in the first quarter, I'm not worried. But you can't do what you did in those 4 close wins, which is go down 14+ into the fourth quarter. You can't do that. Now, okay, I say you can't. You can, but I think that this is going to be different. I think that when you have somebody like Deuce Vaughn back there running the football, when you have Malik Knowles out there split out, and you have Will Howard cooking like he has the last couple weeks, I think it's really hard to stop that offense. And TCU's defense is the problem, in my opinion. They're not great. They're above
Yep, they're
average, but
mid.
they're not great. And now
They're
they're
mid.
they're better than any OU defense that's trotted into the college football playoff. I will give them that. They are definitely
True.
miles ahead of them, but they're nowhere near where I think they need to be to be a team that's going to be able to beat a team like a Georgia. I think that's a tall task. Now, right now, obviously they would play Michigan, and I would give them a hella chance to win that game. Because
Oh yeah.
Michigan has been inconsistent, and you're gonna look at that Illinois film and go, how did they hang in there? You're gonna look at that Maryland film and go, how did they hang in there? And you're gonna
Yeah.
say this team is not invincible, but when they get on a roll, Michigan does. They are a tough team to stop when that offensive line is getting that running game going and Blake Corum's going bananas. That's gonna be a problem for TCU
He
if
gonna
they
be
can.
back?
What?
Kuram? Is Kuram gonna be back?
Yeah, he'll be back.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
He's playing this weekend, I believe.
Gotcha.
So I think what he did was not a huge injury in that
Yeah.
Buckeye. I think they were just playing it safe, and because they had that huge lead, they didn't need him.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah. Fair
offensive
enough.
line was dominating Ohio State so much it didn't really matter. But yeah, he's gonna play. So keep that in
Okay.
mind. Um, but back to TCU in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just have to do what they're supposed to do defensively. If they can stop Kansas State and win this game by 10 plus, I don't see any problem with them being able to beat Michigan if Michigan can beat Purdue this weekend. Let's jump into that one. That one's a 7 o'clock kickoff at night. This one is going to be played in Indianapolis in the Colts indoor stadium, so no weather
Oh,
elements
nice.
are going to be involved. These two teams will be playing in a dome, so good for them because I would
Yeah.
not want to
Nice.
be
Very nice.
outside this time of year up in that north Midwest section of the United States. Look, I mean, Michigan is a 17-point favorite here,
Ooh.
but and this was my stat leading into this. I told you this yesterday at work. Purdue's head coach 3-0 against
I
teams
like that.
ranked in the top five all time as a head coach. Of course, all of those wins majorly coming against Ohio State. 2 out of the 3 are Ohio State, and 1 I think was Michigan State. 1 year, I believe. If not, it was Michigan, but I think it was Michigan State. Not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I know at least 2 of them
Mhm.
are Ohio State. You think this spread's a little big?
I do. I do definitely think this red's a little big. I give a little bit more respect to the Boilermakers, especially with that 3-0 stat against top three teams. I mean, I mean, they made it to the conference championship. They're no slouch. I mean, they're gonna put up a fight. They're not gonna just roll over. I do respect Purdue as well. I mean, they always find a way, and I don't think they get it done here. I think Michigan does roll by at least 2 touchdowns, but I think they go below 17. So I take the under on that one.
Yeah, I mean, look, the way Purdue plays, they play up to competition and down to competition.
Yeah,
They've lost to teams they shouldn't lose to this season, and they've beaten teams that after those losses people haven't expected them to win. Like they've lost to Wisconsin, but they've beaten Minnesota. You know, you lose to Indiana, but you beat um, Illinois. Like I mean, it's just it's weird stuff. So
yeah,
overall, I give Purdue a chance here. It's hard not to. Um,
yeah.
with the way Michigan plays, they're kind of the same. They play it down and up to competition as well. Played up to competition against Ohio State. They played down against Illinois. So they're going to have to be up for this game. They can't be looking at it as a gimme because Purdue may be mid.
No turnovers.
Yeah,
No
you can't.
turnovers
Yeah,
from
you
Purdue.
can't be.
Can't
You
turn the
can't.
ball over.
Yeah, can't turn the ball over. Um, it's just
Got to be
gotta
playing lights out.
be fundamentally sound. Look, Michigan could easily win this game by 10, easily by
Yeah,
14, easily by 17 if they play up to
I got
expectations.
them by
But
14.
yeah, but I think Purdue might cover this game. So keep an eye out on that one. Um, Another game, 3 o'clock. LSU after that loss to A&M is gonna try to beat Georgia down in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in New Orleans, or sorry, in Atlanta, excuse me. Playing where the Falcons play ball, so technically a home game for Georgia. Um, LSU, they're 17.5 point dogs. Um, I just LSU beat Alabama. I don't know. 17 points seems a lot to me, but I think Georgia gets the job done. Your thoughts?
No shot. No shot. No shot. I had to say it 3 times. No shot. No shot here.
No shot?
Sorry, that's all I gotta say. No shot. They have no shot. Georgia just an amazing defense and a high power offense when it comes to crunch time. They're gonna cover here. They're gonna get it done. They're gonna win this thing this year. I'm saying it right now.
Look, I think Georgia wins this football game, but I think it's a squeaker. I think
Okay.
17 and a half points is bananas for this game. And I'll tell you why. Because when you look at the losses that LSU's had, again, you go back to week 1, you lost to Florida State, but Florida State's no slouch. It was a 1-point loss, and Florida State has ended up being a decent team this season. But we didn't think LSU was going to be super good, so like I
Yeah.
said at the time, we were like, yeah, it's a loss. Is it a terrible loss? No. Is it a sad loss because you lost on a missed extra point? Yes. But it was, they bounced back and won 4 straight, and then going into that game against Tennessee, no one was beating Tennessee at that time. They were rolling. And so when they got blown out
Yeah.
40-13, I wasn't batting an eye. I wasn't crying about it because I thought that Tennessee was miles ahead at the time, and they were. And then you go and you beat Florida. They're terrible. You beat Ole Miss, at the time was number 7 in the country, and you beat them by 25. So it was but now we know the Ole Miss is kind of because you lost to Mississippi State last week, and that was I mean, it wasn't impressive
Yeah.
at all. And then you beat Alabama at home by 1 point because you went for 2, and nuts on the table. Congratulations, you got it.
Yeah.
But then you barely beat Arkansas by 3. But going into that game, I liked Arkansas a lot because I really thought they kind of matched up well, and they did. They just couldn't get the job done offensively. And then you blow out UAB, and then you're thinking ahead to Georgia, and you lose to A&M by 15. This team is everywhere. But the point I'm trying to make is when they play good teams, weird shit happens. And
Yeah.
so could Georgia lose this game? Yes. If they lose, would they be out of the college football playoff? No. I would have a hard time replacing Georgia with Ohio State. Like potentially what would happen is Michigan would move up to 1, TCU would be 2, USC would be 3, and then Ohio State or Alabama would be 4. And I think when you compare resumes between Ohio State and Alabama, it's like, well, Ohio State's only losses against Michigan, but do we really want to see Michigan play Ohio State again in the college football playoff in the first round? That would be the question. So then it would come down, in my opinion, to how bad did TCU beat Kansas State and how bad did Michigan beat Purdue, and then maybe flop them and have TCU at 1 and have Michigan stay at 2, just so you wouldn't have the rematch if Ohio State decided to creep into that 4 spot. But people are saying, since they don't want to see it so bad, that a 2-loss Alabama team might jump them anyways, just because an Alabama-Michigan matchup might be more appealing. I don't, because they don't want to see a redo, but I don't know how you feel about that.
That's fair enough. I mean, I like that takeaway there. But here's the thing: LSU is not going to be able to score on Georgia. That's the only point I'm trying to make here. Georgia's defense is unbelievable. I mean, they are the new Alabama. And like I was saying earlier, the chip is theirs. I mean, they have a golden platter for the championship. And I don't think LSU's offense is going to be able to get going. I don't think they're going to be able to score very much. And I think Georgia's offense is going to keep tacking on points. So I like that spread there.
Yeah, I mean, but just hear me out here. The spread, I just know the spread seems big to me for another reason. Go back and look at that Missouri game. 26-22, barely winning it. Look back at just 2 weeks ago against Kentucky, 16-6. I mean, Kentucky's defense ain't great. You only beat Tennessee by 14. That wasn't,
I do think, I do like that. I respect that. I
think Georgia wins.
Yeah. I was saying Georgia earlier in the season, and this might sound crazy, but I think weather had a big factor in this because if you notice over time, Georgia hasn't been playing as well in the cooler weather. I mean, it's not drastically, and you do warm up when you play, but I mean, I just think as the months continued, I think they're started to slip a little bit in the conference. So I mean, obviously they haven't lost, but I think weather might have had a little bit to do with it. So I mean, That's just my takeaway. I don't know if I sound crazy or
No, well, I mean that
whatever. But
if you think that's the case, well, then this plays well into their hands since they're playing in a dome. So I mean, weather
yeah,
not going to be a factor. So
yep.
that
I
could
like
help them
I
out
like it all the way.
immensely. Um, so I mean, look, I think the spread is just a little high. That's the only thing I've really got to take away from that is I just think that, maybe they win by 14. I think 17 and a half just seems too generous to me, considering how LSU has played as a whole this season. Sure, they've had bad weeks and they could get blown out by 40. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I'm not betting that they're going to cover. I think some of these 17-point spreads are going to be a little closer. I think the one that has more potential to hit is that Michigan game. I think they have a better potential to hit that spread than Georgia does against LSU because I think they're going to show up.
Okay.
Um,
Fair enough.
but but let's jump into kind of the last one to kind of talk about is Clemson and North Carolina. This one's being played in Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, where the Panthers play. So technically,
Okay.
but this is a South Carolina North Carolina team matchup anyways, so technically a home game for both of them. It's not a far drive for Clemson fans, and definitely not for North Carolina fans. Right now, Clemson is favored by 7.5. What do you think is going to happen here? No chance at playoff berths here, but a ranked matchup.
I like Clemson here. I think Dabo gets everybody's head screwed back on from that loss. I think North Carolina is a better team than the spread they're saying is. I mean, I'm going to go with that spread just because I think Clemson's going to find a way to score that little bit extra, and I don't think North Carolina is going to be able to hang around. So I don't think I like the. I'm going to keep with the spread. I'm going to go with the spread on there for that, but. Go Clemson, and I think they're going to win that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think North Carolina's got this.
Okay.
I'm not even
Fair
gonna
enough.
stutter. Look, they've been playing like trash these last couple of weeks. They've fallen like 13 spots in the last 2 weeks. They're not playing great football right now.
Yeah.
You take a look at that overtime loss against NC State, and you look at that terrible loss at Georgia Tech where they had no business losing that game.
Yeah.
The only other loss they have is Notre Dame. But look at some of these scores, man. Only beating Miami by 3,
Yeah.
only beating Duke by 3, only beating Virginia by 3, only beating Wake Forest by 2. I mean, it seems like what happens is North Carolina gets on top by like 21 points in the second quarter, and they just piss away the lead every single
Yeah.
game. And I love Mac Brown to death. I like him a lot better in Tar Heel Blue than I ever did in Burnt Orange, because he
Yeah.
was a real threat down there in Austin. And I'm kind of sad to say I wish I would have brought him back instead of, bringing in Sarkisian. But I mean, there was no shot. His contract was non-negotiable or whatever. So I'm not, I'm just kind of talking out of my ass. But they definitely have the offensive power to put Clemson on their ass. If South Carolina can get
Fair enough.
buku yards against you, then this offense can get some yards. It's the defense that I have a problem with. They don't play well against the run. Will Shipley is an above average halfback for Clemson, and I think that he's going to run all over the defense. And I think that the quarterback play that Clemson's been trotting out there is egregiously terrible. But I think it's good enough to get the job done against just this UNC defense that just seems to be Swiss cheese, man.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Um, but I mean,
Hey, can you cover for 2 seconds? I just need a pit stop real
yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, bet.
um,
This water's going through me.
um,
All right, I'll be
okay.
right back.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I stand on that game. I think UNC's got a real good chance there to pull the upset. So let's move into Heisman time here. Look, I'm gonna go through my list here and give you my updates, and we'll get Coles when we get back here. So last week, who I had as my top 5 was Stroud, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Max Duggan, and Blake Corum as my top 5 going in. I am making some changes. I do have Caleb Williams at my 1 spot now. I think he's been playing exceptionally well. I think at number 2, I'm still going to go with Stroud. The numbers haven't been bad. It's just that loss against Michigan is glaring, and obviously the stats in that Northwestern game were bad. So I mean, I'm not completely saying it's egregious. I think it's going to be super close. The third spot, I am going to put Max Duggan in that third spot. I think he will go to New York. I think it'd be a shame if he didn't, especially if he wins this weekend, which I think he will. And then at the fourth spot, I have Bryce Young. I think that he still has had a very good season. It's been unfortunate that the defense for Alabama has been down this year, because if they weren't, I think that they would also be in the conversation for getting to the CFP, and might be playing Georgia this weekend instead of LSU. But a tiebreaker is a tiebreaker, and when LSU beats you by a point on 2-point conversion, that still counts as a loss, brother. And at my 5 spot, I'm gonna still go with Blake Corum. I think that if he has a big weekend, and Michigan ends up just rolling against Purdue on his back, I think that that's gonna be the key there. But I just don't know if it's good enough to jump Bryce Young, even though he doesn't play this weekend. Last weekend, Cole had Stroud as his 1, Williams at 2, Corum at 3, Duggan at 4, and Stetson Bennett coming in at number 5. Any changes this week?
Little bit. It's tough. This is the hardest week I think I've ever had to rank, just because of course losses, and then I think guys are still on top. So give me at 1 for right now. Give me Caleb Williams.
Okay.
I think that's fair. I mean, he's had his Heisman moments. He's been playing well. I mean, great season. So I think if he wins the Pac-12, I think we should hand it to him. So give me Williams at 1. Give me Blake Corum at 2. Unbelievable season, just running all over the place and doing very well. 3, give me Max Duggan, of course, undefeated, looking good. Johnny Unitas just won it. So 3, give me Duggan, of course. At 4, I'm going to go with Stetson Bennett. I think, of course, with them still being undefeated, I think he's been playing well. I don't think he's that great, but I mean, when your team's undefeated and you're the number 1 in the country, I think you should be on that board. So, I mean, Stetson at 4, and at 5, you might like this one, you might not. Give me Spencer Rattler.
Oh my
Give me
God.
Rattler. Give me Rattler at 5. I mean, not a great season, but when you, for the past 2 weeks, beat that top caliber of teams and put up those numbers, I think you deserve to be on this board. And you're on my list, Spencer, and I'm pulling for you, man. So there's that 5 slot for you, buddy.
So no CJ Stroud, just Gonzo.
Unfortunately, because of that Michigan loss and
Ooh.
their chances of not being, he's at my 6. That's number 6.
Okay.
But I wanted to put him at 5, but with that very disappointing loss, even though you have the numbers, if you're not competing, and of course you're not even in the Big Ten championship, you can't be on my list. You're at number 6 though, and you might move up with an impressive bowl win. So,
all right,
I think that's just my list. I think he's still going to be going to New York.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
they're still going to pick him, and I think just with the seasons he's had, and even though it's one loss to one of the best teams in the country, I think they still bring him up there. But he's not on my list. I'm not taking him. Sorry, can't have a big loss like that late in the season. You can't do it. You can't have it.
The fall from grace is real. Ohio State fans wanting to rip Cole's testes
guys.
off.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's a development for damn sure. Let's go ahead.
I apologize. I mean,
hey, no apology necessary. So that kind of wraps up our Heisman updates. Let's talk about this top 10. You didn't like the way it panned out.
Yeah.
Right here specifically. So we'll go through it for you guys, and we'll have Cole do his first. So at number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, TCU. Number 4, USC. Number 5, Ohio State. Number 6, Alabama. Number 7, Tennessee. Number 8, Penn State. Number 9, Clemson. And at the 10th place is Kansas State. So what kind of changes would you make to this list?
It's not drastic change, but I mean, I like the top 4. I like where the 4 is at. I guess I guess you have to keep Ohio State at that 5 because I mean they're just right outside. They lost to Michigan. Like I
Yeah.
mean they're a great team. So I mean I think you have to keep them there at that 5. Uh, don't come for me, guys. But even as much as I hate Alabama, I think they're at that 6 slot. Even with Tennessee beating them, I just think you can't have those 2 losses. I think Tennessee moves back to 7, and then who's at 8
Right
right
now it
now?
is Penn State.
I don't like. I'm gonna move specifically because I like the Big 12. I'm a Big 12 bias, of course, over Big 10. I'm gonna move K State to 8.
Hmm.
I think they
I
just
don't
have
have a
a
problem with
very
that.
very impressive season. Very impressive season, and they're clicking. They're running. They got the numbers. They got an impressive offense, a nice little defense, and I think they have a good chance to tear apart TCU season. So I mean, I like them at that 8 slot, and I think that hypes the Big 12 up just a little bit more. And then I'm gonna push Penn State to 10, and then who they have at that 9? Was it
Clemson.
Clemson?
Yeah.
I guess I'll keep Clemson at 9. I mean,
All right.
I'm not a fan, but I mean, I think they're gonna take care of the ACC, and I think they're a decent team, so we'll keep them at the 9.
So
And that's my top 10, folks.
I mean, so just a couple changes, not much. Just really
Yeah,
the big mover is Kansas State and Penn State kind of switching places.
and then Alabama, of course, moving up.
No, that's where they're at. They're at 6.
Oh, that's where it's
Yeah,
at.
yeah. The
Okay,
people
gotcha.
people
Okay,
had
for some
problems.
reason,
Yeah, people had
yeah.
problems with Tennessee not being there, because they had beaten Alabama, so they were like, "Well, they have the tiebreaker. Why aren't they 6?" But I think the fact that Hooker is injured really puts a damper on the way their offense runs. Now I know they beat Vanderbilt 56-0 last weekend,
Yeah.
but I think that I just think it wouldn't have mattered who played quarterback that weekend. I think they were going to get a dub. It looked very impressive, but I mean, it's just like the kind of the same thing as TCU putting 63 on Iowa State. I mean, it's just kind of what you're supposed to do, and they did it. So I don't have a problem with that either. The big thing I think is this is so my 1 through 4. I mean, right now there's nothing I can do about that as well.
Locked in.
I think that
Locked
that's
in.
locked in as well. At number 5, give me Alabama. Um, I know that's a rough take because Ohio State's got 1 loss, Alabama's got 2, but I think they're the better team, and I think that Michigan exposed Ohio State as kind of being a little soft. They weren't more physical than Michigan last weekend, and I think even though Alabama's had a down defensive year, I think they could beat Ohio State by multiple touchdowns. Just the way that they played, I just don't see that. I mean, I have Ohio State at 6. That's kind of my big swap is 5 and 6. I think 7. You keep Tennessee there. I don't think you can do anything worse to them than what's already been done, which is having their
Mhm.
starting quarterback out for the year. And I agree. I think Kansas State is the 8th best team in the country. Even though they have 3 losses, I don't have a problem with Kansas State jumping teams that have 1 less loss than them that I feel like are less talented.
Yeah.
At number 9, I'll keep Clemson there as well. I think they've got more talent,
Okay.
and I think Penn State does deserve to be in the top 10 considering they're 10-2. Um,
Yeah.
but let's just remind everybody that those 2 losses for Penn State are against Michigan and Ohio State. So it's not like they've lost to bad teams.
The best
Um,
teams in the country.
yeah, and they only lost to Ohio State by 13, and Michigan blew them out by 24. So but I think Michigan might be for real this year. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've said that in the past, but that's kind of what you're looking at. I think Clemson does have worse losses. So you could make the argument that maybe Clemson deserves to be 10 and Penn State deserves to be 9, because those losses are so egregious. I mean, Spencer Rattler, South Carolina team is nowhere near as good as Michigan or Ohio State. Um, and you also have a questionable loss to Notre Dame, who looked, mid against a USC team that they probably could have hung in there a little bit better with if they had decent quarterback play. So I mean, I just, so I kind of, what, yeah, let's just, I think Penn State deserves to be 9. I don't
9.
have,
Okay.
I don't have
Fair
a
enough.
problem with that, and we'll put Clemson at 10, just because those losses, like I said, to Penn State are the games that they were supposed to lose at the beginning of the year, anyways. No one projected them to win those games, so I think that's very much deserved, and that's kind of where I'll put my top 10 as well. So that's that. So let's jump into the next topic, which is bowl projections. So this is coming from The Athletic. Now, normally you have to pay $1.99 to see this article, which is wild. But if you're on desktop and you have a Windows computer, if you just press Immersive Reader, it just gives you the whole entire column for free.
There you go.
So hacks coming at you live. Use them while you can, because there's no reason you should have to pay for a story this stupid. It's not insider information. It's not secret. It's just somebody's guess. Because nothing except for two bowls has been, except for two bowl games have been ultimately decided here. So right now, in the Orange Bowl, the Athletic has Clemson playing Ohio State. Obviously, that would mean Clemson has to win this game this weekend. Ohio State, they're obviously not playing this weekend, so that would just be the matchup. Does that do anything for you? Wiggle your wiener a little bit, or no?
I mean, I like that. I think that's going to happen. I think that projection's spot on.
The second game is the Sugar Bowl. This would be if Kansas State lost and if Alabama, they stay neutral, they don't play. They would play each other in the Sugar Bowl, K-State and Alabama.
Ouch.
Yeah, you think Kansas State gets thwacked?
Unfortunately, just because I think Alabama is going to show the country that they are still here, they're still in it, and they're still competitive. So, I mean, I think they're going to put it on and just hose the Kansas State Wildcats, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is your college football playoff projection here. Michigan playing TCU should be a good game. TCU got a chance to win that game, in my opinion.
They definitely do. They definitely do.
I don't have a problem with that matchup, and obviously the Peach Bowl would be Georgia and USC, which I think would be a good matchup because you have the best offense in the country against probably the best defense in the country. We'll see if Georgia could shut down Caleb Williams. Obviously, that is if USC wins this weekend. Cotton Bowl.
I like that.
Cotton Bowl matchup. This is one that you're gonna laugh at. Tennessee versus Tulane. Cotton Bowl, Tulane, the at-large bid there. But with Tennessee having their backup quarterback, is this a football game?
It might be. I mean, Tulane's playing impressive, and then I don't really know the offense Tennessee has now. I mean, of course, you put up that much on Vanderbilt, but we are talking about Vanderbilt. So I mean, I think Tulane's a lot better team than Vanderbilt, and it could be. I like Tennessee, of course, but I mean, hey, good job, Tulane. At least you're not irrelevant.
Yeah, that would be good for their recruiting for sure.
Definitely.
This is the Rose Bowl matchup. This is what they think is going to happen: Penn State and Washington. So instead of that's who they've got. I mean, I like the matchup. Thoughts?
It's not bad. I mean, I think those teams are evenly, maybe a little one side better than the other, but I mean, I think that goes either way. I mean, I like the matchup.
So those are their New Year's 6 bowls from the Athletic. That's their projection. And here is the rest of them. Here is one that is cemented. It is Miami of Ohio versus UAB in the Bahamas Bowl. That'll be a snoozer, but that starts off the bowl season on December 16th. The projection.
Hey, I'd love to be in the Bahama Bowl.
Right. I mean, a great spot for especially the players from Miami of Ohio who don't get warm weather a lot up there in Ohio this time of year. The Cure Bowl would be Marshall versus BYU in Orlando, Florida. That would be the afternoon game that day. I like this matchup. I think it's very even.
I think BYU is a better team. I mean, I do agree, but I think BYU, of course, wins that one.
The Fenway Bowl, which is played inside a baseball stadium, they always have that one. One of the most awkward field designs you'll probably see this season. It'll be they have Wake Forest projected to play East Carolina. That game is in Boston, Massachusetts, so a little chilly there, especially at 11 a.m. Eastern, or 11 a.m. Central for that kick.
Hope they're ready to wake up early.
Yeah, it's an early kick.
See you at 6 a.m. for walkthroughs.
Yeah. Who do you have winning that matchup if that were to culminate? Wake Forest and East Carolina.
And wear your thermal gear. But I got the Demon Deacons here winning that one.
Yeah, I mean it's a kind of an interstate matchup with two teams from the North Carolina area playing each other, so I kind of like that matchup. The New Mexico Bowl played in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Going to be chilly there. It's going to be San Jose State and Rice. That's their guess. Again, these are all guesses. This is not for sure.
Yeah.
I like that matchup though. I think those teams are very evenly matched. That could be a close game as well. The LA Bowl is Washington State versus Boise State. That's in Inglewood, California, and they're projecting the top. They're projecting the Mountain West Championship team to go there, because Boise State will play in their conference championship this weekend against Fresno State at home. That is not a neutral site game for Mountain West the conference. They always play it at the top team's home field. So they're projecting Boise State to beat Fresno State and then have to play Washington State, who is the number 6 team in the Pac-12. At least that's where they think they're going to finish if Utah loses. What are your thoughts on this matchup? Seem pretty even to you?
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I like their guess on that one. I mean, I'm not really too sure about the teams, but I mean, of course, I'm going to go with the guess.
The Lending Tree Bowl, Southern Miss versus Bowling Green. That one's in Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile.
Yeah, so that game probably a snooze.
Sisters and cousins.
Yeah, so that's probably a snoozer. The Vegas Bowl. This one is gonna be lit if this happens. This is if LSU loses to Georgia this weekend. It'll be Oregon and LSU playing in Las Vegas at 7:30. I like the matchup. I think the Ducks can take care of business against the Tigers.
They should be able to.
But that's a good projection there. I like that one. The Frisco Bowl, Houston and Fresno State. That is if Fresno State loses this weekend against Boise State. A pretty evenly matched team. Not really much to say with that one.
Go Cougars.
Yeah, the South Alabama.
I got 2 buddies that are just really one, but I know one guy, but I have a friend that plays for Houston, so.
Yeah, so go Cougs. Myrtle Beach Bowl, South Alabama and Liberty. Might be Hugh Freeze's last game at Liberty before he goes and becomes a coach for Auburn next season.
Eagles.
But yeah, so the Flames of Liberty probably going to come away with the win there against South Alabama, who's been up and down all season. The Idaho Potato Bowl, everybody's favorite. Utah State playing Buffalo. I will pass on probably viewing that one. The Boca
Got a buddy that plays for Buffalo. He's actually I think he might be the leading receiver. His name's Keon Williams.
Could be right about that because I don't know anything about Buffalo. The Boca Raton, the Boca Raton Bowl, they think is going to feature Georgia Southern and UConn. UConn going bowling for the first time in like forever. Yeah, snooze fest there. Won't be viewing that one. So yeah, it looks like December 20th. I'm just not going to be watching football because those are the only 2 games on that day. December 21st.
What's happening with the better one if it's close?
Yeah, if it's close, I'll tune in. December 21st. There's only one game. It's the New Orleans Bowl. They think it's going to be Troy versus North Texas. So I'll only be tuning into that game if it's within 10 points in the 4th quarter. Yawn. And then here's the first local Big 12 team, the Armed Forces Bowl on December 22nd. They think will be Air Force playing Oklahoma State. So it's in Fort Worth. It's in Texas. It's the only game that day, so they get prime viewership here. What are your thoughts on Air Force possibly playing Oklahoma State here?
If that does happen, I take care of that one. I mean, Air Force is not bad, but State's just way more superior. So I mean, I really hope they can find a way.
Say that again. You're kind of cutting out.
Oh, you're good. I was saying I just really hope Oklahoma State can find a way. They're more superior team here, and obviously a lot better program, a lot better football players. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't catch any of that, but I think what you were saying was you hope that Oklahoma State takes care of business. It's not your mic. It's just I think the connection is going in and out, so it's like I hear bits and pieces. But yeah, I agree. I think Oklahoma State is a superior team here, and they should take care of business, um, even if they're playing with their backup quarterback, which looks like it might be the case. Um,
Yeah.
it should be Oklahoma State all the way, and I'll be watching that game for sure. The next games are on December 23rd. You got two of them. You got the Independence Bowl, which they think is going to be Louisiana versus Memphis. Um, and then you've got the Gasparilla Bowl between Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati. Um,
Hmm.
the Cincinnati game kind of intrigues me. I can't say the same
Yeah.
for the Louisiana Memphis game if that's what it comes down to. Again, none of these are official, but these are kind of the best guesses as of right now via the Athletic. Moving on to Christmas Eve, got one game. This is a for sure matchup. San Diego State and Middle Tennessee. Those teams are going to be playing in Honolulu, in Hawaii. So a good trip for Middle Tennessee, which get out of
Dang.
get out of Tennessee, go to Hawaii. For San Diego State, just to skip across the pond to
I'll
Hawaii.
take that.
I mean, I like San Diego State in this game. Middle Tennessee's had a good
I
season,
agree.
but I like the Aztecs.
I agree.
And that'll be your only game on Christmas Eve. No games on Christmas, but the day after, you've got the Quick Lane Bowl with Wisconsin playing Eastern Michigan. Boy, how the Badgers have fallen if you have to play Eastern Michigan in a bowl game. They're the number Wisconsin. They think will finish the number 8 team in the Big Ten, and that is if Purdue does not win this weekend, which again could happen. Anything is possible. We know how Purdue likes to upset the top 5. So the spoiler makers could be in full effect, but they are not. The Athletic is not predicting that, and I wouldn't either. But but that's where they think Wisconsin will end, and they'll play the MAC championship team, Eastern Michigan. So I think Wisconsin probably wins this game, but it might be closer than people like.
Yeah, I like Wisconsin here as well. I think they're just a better team.
Then you have on December 27th the Camellia Bowl between UTSA and Ohio. Shoot me, I'm not watching that one. And the first
Roadrunners.
yeah, exactly. First Responder Bowl, UNLV versus Western Kentucky. Another snoozer there. Another one in the afternoon, the Birmingham Bowl with SMU and Florida. That game actually might be tolerable, watching Tanner Mordecai go against Richardson and that Florida team. Any thoughts on that one?
I mean, I hope Tanner Mordecai gets it done. I'm pulling for him.
The Guaranteed Rate Bowl on December 27th will be your nightcap. It is in Phoenix, Arizona. It'll be the 10 o'clock game Central Time. It'll be 8 o'clock over there in Phoenix. It is between Illinois and Baylor. I think the Bears get it done. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely Bears. Bear down.
So that will be December 27th. Again, these are just guesses. Things could change this weekend if we have upsets. This is if all
Probably
the
most likely. Though.
yeah, this is
I
if
like
all
these
this is
bets
if all
a
the
lot.
games this weekend go chalk, folks. This is if the winners that are supposed to win all the conference championship games this weekend. Military Bowl, UCF and Duke. Not a bad matchup. It might be entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm sure the jerseys will be lit for that game, so I'll probably tune into that one. The Liberty Bowl, Kansas playing Missouri. This is an old rivalry game. I like this matchup. If this happens, I'm watching it. I'm not. I mean, Kansas goes bowling for the first time in forever, and they are playing a rival. I like it.
I like it a lot. Yeah, I like that game a lot. I think it's close. I think I hope the Jayhawks get it done. Missouri, I think those two teams are very evenly matched. So I like that game a lot. I'll definitely tune in.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching that. That's a 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central kick on December 28th. The game after that will be Pittsburgh playing Utah. That's if Utah loses this weekend. Utah should just kick the crap out of Pittsburgh. I just don't like Pitt that much. That would be the Holiday Bowl in San Diego.
I would need Kenny Pickett back to have a chance.
Yeah, and developing here after Texas Tech beat OU, they jumped to number 4 in the Big 12 title race, and that is also if Kansas State loses this weekend. And they'll be playing Arkansas in the Texas Bowl down in Houston. I like that matchup, but I like Arkansas to get it done.
Yeah, I agree.
And that game's not for sure either, but whatever. December 29th, This game also played in a baseball stadium. This one played in Yankee Stadium, the Pinstripe Bowl between
It's
Minnesota and
fun.
Syracuse. That game will be very tight and very close.
I think the Orangemen pulled that one out.
Yeah, I like Syracuse there as well. And now for a game which I know the Oklahoma fans are not wanting to happen if it does, the Cheez-It
I'm excited
Bowl.
to hear this.
The Cheez-It Bowl
Oh,
in Orlando, Florida, and Oklahoma's opponent will be Florida State. That is who they want to have matched up. Is the old 2000 national championship matchup, and of course, they've played a couple games in the preseason over the last couple years, which OU won both of those. Um, what are your thoughts on OU possibly playing the Seminoles?
I mean, that's a fun game. Hold on just 1 second. Let me get my Cheez-Its ready.
Hey, they're
Hey,
toasty.
hey,
Yeah, I mean,
very
hey,
toasty.
um,
I'm hoping to eat these, and if that does, I like that matchup. Let me get my Cheez-Its ready.
yeah, gotta have them Cheez-Its ready for all you listeners not visually. Hey, he's holding up the Cheez-Its box. Um, and that's obviously if everything goes chalk, OU would finish number 3 in the Big 12, which would be a big jump for them. But that's again if Kansas State loses. Um, and Florida State, it would be intriguing. I would watch it.
I definitely like it. It's a
Um,
good matchup.
yeah, I like that a lot. Moving on
I
to
think the Sooners win though, for sure.
yeah, I like Florida State. I think
Oof,
their offense is too good for that defense to stop. Um,
fair enough.
and the nightcap that night after the Oklahoma game will be Texas playing UCLA in the Alamo Bowl.
Ooh,
I would like that matchup if it would come to
I
terms.
like that one a lot.
Um,
That's probably out of everything you said. I honestly like that's got to be one of the top three favorite matchups from everything you listed. I hope everything goes accordingly, but I
yeah,
like that. I like that ECU UCLA. I think that's going to be a great game.
yeah. With a loss, with Kansas State losing, that would put Texas at the number 2 spot in the Big 12. And that would be UCLA moving up to that 2 spot as well. Um, if Utah loses. So that would be in San Antonio, Texas at 9 p.m. here, 10, uh, 10 Eastern. That would be your nightcap for December 29th. And then the next morning, you have not a snoozer. Maryland playing NC State, possibly in the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte. I think NC State gets it done, but I like Tua's brother going against a quarterback that we all thought would be really good this year. Um,
I like Maryland. I think the defense steps up, and I think Tua is going to find a way. Or not Tua, but his brother,
yeah,
Tagovailoa,
yeah.
whatever the hell his name is.
But yeah, I mean Maryland could win that game. I wouldn't be surprised. And then in the afternoon would be Louisville playing Oregon State. I think Oregon State probably rolls in that one, um, if that were to happen. And then the next game after that would be North Carolina playing Kentucky. That's if North Carolina loses this weekend to Clemson. I like North Carolina to probably beat Kentucky. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark Stoops gets it close, but I think they find a way.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of up for grabs kind of right now as well. The
Yeah,
Arizona Bowl would be your last game on December 30th between Wyoming and Toledo. Probably a snoozer, one of those you tune into probably around 6 o'clock to see who's leading going into the fourth. Um,
very smoothie.
and then the only other game on December 31st besides um, the Kansas State, Alabama, possibly, and the 2 playoff games is the Music City Bowl. They think it's going to be Iowa and Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss probably just spanks the shit out of Iowa. That offense for Iowa just can't get going. Even though they lost to
Yeah,
Nebraska last week, which was embarrassing for them, I think that Nebraska has been kind of they're a lot better than they've played. I think the talent level is way better than Iowa, so I wasn't super shocked like a lot of people were. But Iowa's defense has been like their big calling card, and I think Ole Miss has the offense with Jackson Dart to get it done. That would be the first game of the day at noon Eastern, or 1 Eastern, noon Central Time. Uh,
I
and
like
then
that. I
and
like
then
that
the
pick.
last 2 are kind of not snoozers. That'd be the the ReliaQuest Bowl between Notre Dame and Mississippi State. A lot of people have them matched up. If Notre Dame's not playing Mississippi State in that game, it'll be them playing in the Armed Forces Bowl. But those are the two bids for those two teams, and I like Notre Dame probably to win that game.
I agree.
Mike Leach has been doing a good job, but I think Notre Dame's probably trying to prove that they're not completely bum.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last game, January 2nd, Purdue playing Spencer Rattler in South Carolina. And that's obviously if Purdue loses this weekend, which probably will happen. And those are all the bowl games that the Athletic has projected so far. So I mean, some matchups that are intriguing, but nothing that really. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 that I'm like, yeah, like I would watch that game. I mean, obviously, I'm watching all of the playoff games and the ones over that New Year's Eve, New Year's Day weekend. But the ones that aren't that, I think there's 5 or 6 that are pretty decent. And some that are not even ranked matchups that are kind of intriguing. But of course,
just one more time, sorry. Go Gamecocks.
Oh, Gamecocks rolling in the bowl game, no matter who they play. Obviously, we'll know more about that Sunday when these bids actually start.
Hey, I'm a Spencer Rattler fan, man. I mean, I loved him at OU. I've even ran into him at that bar, Logie's, in Norman. So I mean, chopped it up for just a second, but I mean, he's a cool guy, and sad to see him go. But I mean, hey, he's going to the league.
Yeah. I agree. I was there at that West Virginia game where he got booed off the field. It was hilarious. Yeah, those are the bowl projections right now. We'll know more about that Sunday and Monday. Cole and I will be participating in the Capital One Bowl Mania. We'll put the link in that. We'll throw the link up on Twitter when we both start that group. If you want to join, go ahead and join.
For sure.
We'll see how we do in our picks for the bowl games and see actually what the matchups are going to be. Might do an early episode in the week to try to get you guys some info on those games and give you our picks and stuff, considering that those games will start very, very soon. I mean, it'll be a week and a half out, but I mean, but it's still. I mean, December 16th, only 2 weeks away. So we'll get you.
Approaching.
Yeah, we'll get you all horned up. For bowl season for sure.
You're all lubed up, folks.
Yeah, well, you'll have plenty of time to join that bowl mania as well as those bids come in this next week. So let's go through kind of a little bit of NBA, NFL, and then we'll get our locks of the week and go and tell how much money we're gonna put on these picks. We've already given you our picks, but we haven't decided how much money we're gonna put.
Gotta lock them in.
Gotta lock them in. So, NBA right now, we're only 22 games in. But still not really a bunch of shakeup in the East. You have Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Indiana as your top 4 teams in the East. And down in the West, you got Phoenix, Denver, New Orleans at the 3 spot, and the Grizzlies at 4. You still have the Golden State Warriors have jumped back in the playoff race at 11-11. They're tied in record with Minnesota and Portland. They're all at 500. Any takeaways from the standings right now, or is everything kind of going to plan? I'm kind of shocked that New Orleans is kind of up there right now.
Yeah, I mean it's still obviously just a little early, but I mean I think the only couple teams that will be relevant at the end of the year are Boston and Golden State. I mean, Boston's looking unbeatable, and Golden State is picking up the pieces, and of course they have the best shooters in the game. So I think at the end of the year, those are going to be the most relevant teams going into the conference championships for both sides, and I think they will both take care of their conferences and see each other in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, my Nuggets pick isn't looking bad. Brooklyn right now is the 8th seed in the East. They'll probably get better as Kyrie and Durant continue to play more and more together. I think that team could get up to that 4 or 5 spot in the East and be a threat. And of course, that's my finals pick is Nuggets and Nets.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of where that stands. So that's your league update for this week, and let's move on to the NFL here. AFC divisional standings here. AFC East, you have the Dolphins ahead of the Bills now in the rankings in the AFC East. But that could even out. But the Dolphins on a 5-game winning streak, really impressive. Your thoughts on the top 2 teams there?
I mean, yeah, they're both playing great football, and of course they're moving the ball. So I mean, they're winning football games. Uh, with as far as the NFL, I mean, I've seen a lot of teams lose that I'm not expecting them to lose. Of course, you're gonna have those couple losses during the season, but I mean, of course, I like Kansas City um, coming out there, and maybe see something from Tom Brady. Maybe who knows? Who knows? But I mean, I think it's gonna be. I think everybody's playing how they should, and I think the playoffs are going to turn out how I'm expecting them to. So um, I think a couple teams do need to pick up the slack a little bit so they can reach the playoffs. But I mean, I think it's going to be a good playoff this year, and I got the Chiefs. I mean, I don't think come crunch time, I don't think you can beat those guys. I think they're the best team in the NFL, and I think they have the best quarterback, and that's what you need in the NFL to be a championship team. You got to have the quarterback. Gotta have it, and their defense is also very nice as well. So give me the Chiefs, locking it in. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, right now, um, as
And the
far as
Bills too. I mean, the Bills are playing great.
yeah, as far as the playoffs are concerned right now, if they were to start right now, Kansas City would be your top seed, followed by
Yeah.
The Dolphins at the 2 spot, Tennessee at 3, Baltimore at 4, and Buffalo at 5. Cincinnati at 6, the New York Jets at 7, and the Patriots at the 8th spot. Um, that would be on the AFC side. On the NFC side, um, you would have Philadelphia at the 1 spot, Minnesota at the 2 spot, San Francisco at the 3 spot, Tampa Bay at the 4 spot, Dallas at 5, New York 6,
Wow.
Washington 7, and Seattle at the 8th spot. Um,
Should be fun. Should be a
so
fun
I
little
mean,
playoff.
that's if things stand right now. The big surprises in the NFC, uh, not really anything. I mean, San Francisco's taken a 1-game lead over Seattle, and Tampa Bay is still at the top of that terrible NFC South. Um, kind of surprising though that the Bills are 0-2 in their division. They've lost to Miami and New York.
Honestly,
That's kind of shocking to see them as Miami's 2-1. Um, Same as the Patriots, but the Patriots are 6-5 overall, so they're kind of at the bottom right now. Um, even though they've won against New York. But yeah, that's kind of where the NFL is right now. Not really a lot of movers and shakers. 7 weeks to go. So we'll keep you guys up to date with that as the college football season winds down. So it's time. Let's get our picks in here. A little bit longer of an episode, but there were a lot of bowl games to go through, so I kind of expected as much. So thank you guys
it
for
was bowl week.
yeah,
It
Gabe.
was
Thank you
bowl
guys
week.
for hanging in there. We'll have more on that obviously as it goes. So Cole, over the weekend you went 3-2 in your
Hey,
picks for the sports book. You lost $125. Um, but with
I'll
uh,
go back.
yeah, so now so that puts you at 70 remaining, but you get that $100, so you have 170 to work with.
70. Okay.
How much do you want to put on the TCU Kansas State game? You've picked TCU to cover that 2.5, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Give me 50. Give me
50.
50.
Okay.
I'm very, very confident in the Horned Frogs. I think
Okay.
they take care of the Big 12. I think they definitely close out the Big 12.
Um, I think as well. I think TCU covers the 2.5. I lost $700 over the weekend. It
Oh,
really hurt. So
you hit
I
the casino?
what?
Did you hit the casino?
Ugh. Yeah, I needed to because I started with $1,100 and lost
Ah,
700. So now I'm down to 525 after my $100 gifting throughout the week. I'm
still
gonna
a nice
put
chunk of
yeah,
change.
I'm gonna put probably 105 on all these games. I'm picking TCU
Okay,
to cover the 2.5 as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna put 105 on all these games because that
fair
that
enough.
just seems the way to go. Second game, Georgia 17.5 point favorites against LSU. Do they cover the spread, Mr. Murphy?
Give me 40 for Georgia to cover that spread. I think they take care of
Oof,
TCU.
big spread there. I like LSU to cover that spread. They're not gonna win the game, but I think they lose by
By
less
less.
than
Okay,
18. So
fair
so
enough.
I think that's I think Georgia gets the dub. They will be the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, but LSU will cover. Next game, UNC and Clemson. Clemson a 7.5 point favorite. You got $80 to work with. How much money you putting on this one?
I'm gonna take um, UNC to cover. I mean, I don't think that they get the 7. I think it's gonna be really close, like a
Okay.
field goal, 3 point. So,
Okay.
so I'll take the UNC minus the 7, I guess, and I'll put 20 on that.
20 on that
I
one.
I, I got Clemson winning, but I don't think they're gonna win.
Okay. Yeah, I've got
They,
UNC
I think
to
this one's
yeah, I got UNC not
gonna
only to
come down
cover,
really close.
I got North Carolina to win, and I'm putting, of course,
Woo!
105 on that one.
Hey,
Next game, USC -3 against Utah. Got 60 to
yeah,
play
give
with.
me USC here to cover, and I want 40 on that one.
Okay, so $20 on the last one. Um, who you got? Michigan -17 versus Purdue. Do they win by
That's a tough
17?
one, and I'll have a 20. I'm gonna take Purdue to cover here. I don't think they win by the 17, so I'll put 20 on the last one.
Okay, so Purdue plus the 17. Um, Look, I'm gonna put my faith in Michigan. I'm gonna put them minus the 17. I don't know why that feels right, but I mean, as much talk as there is about Purdue being the spoiler makers and coaches 3-0 against top 3 teams, it's very impressive. But I think this Michigan team is just kind of a different animal. As far as the Utah USC game goes, give me Utah to win straight up. Fuck USC. I know that's probably a terrible bet. But the game was close last time
Fair
and
enough.
Utah got the win. So change my mind, USC. Change my mind.
It's so hard to beat a team twice. That's just the only thing with that.
It is, and I think it'll prove to be tough for Utah, but I think they can get the job done. I think this
Fair
will
enough.
shake up some things heading into next week. So let's get our locks of the week going here. Cole is 14-16 now after a disappointing 1-2 weekend. As TCU was the only lock that he got. He had Ohio State minus the 8. That fucked up. And he had the Titans plus 2.5. They lost big time in their game on Sunday. Who you got as your first lock here?
Gotta lock it in. Big time game, big time environment. We gotta lock in. Go Frogs.
Going with the Frogs. So he's taking the TCU minus the 2.5 as his first lock of the week. Your second lock of the week, sir.
I think USC takes care of business. Give me a USC for my other lock.
USC -3 against Utah, the other lock for Mr. Murphy. And for me, my first two, I'm gonna go with my first lock. I'm gonna go with TCU minus the 2.5. Can't really not do that one.
Okay.
And I'll go with LSU plus the 17.5. I think that's a big spread to cover, and I think
Okay.
LSU probably loses that game by 14 or 10. So now to the NFL, which we love oh so dearly. For the games this week, today, since it's Thursday night football, you have the Bills and the Patriots. The Bills are 3.5-point favorites tonight.
I'm not gonna go against Bill Belichick. I'm not picking that one.
Okay, so here are the Sunday games. The Eagles are 4.5-point favorites against the Titans. The Vikings are a 3-point favorite against the Jets. The
Oh, give me the Vikings. Lock that. Please.
Okay, Vikings.
That's all I needed to hear.
Vikings minus 3 against the New York Jets. For my lock, I am gonna go down here to oof.
I'm getting ice cream this week.
So the Dolphins are 4-point dogs against the 49ers. That kind of interests me. But again, the Chiefs are only a 1.5-point favorite against the Bengals. I think the Chiefs probably roll, right? It's hard for me to think that they wouldn't.
Yeah, just Joey B.
Here's my pick. The Chargers are 1-point underdogs against Las Vegas. Give me the fucking Chargers.
Oh,
are you fucking
take
kidding
that
me?
10.
Are you
Take
fucking kidding me? A 1-point spread? They're not even the favorites. The Raiders are terrible. I'm sorry, the Raiders are ass. They beat the Broncos. Yeah, they beat the Broncos. Everybody's beating the Broncos. The Broncos are playing the worst football in the league. They're only an 8.5-point dog against Baltimore. Denver is. I think Denver loses that game by 40. I mean,
I'm sorry, Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, but this isn't Fresno State. This isn't
Yeah, it's not Fresno State,
this
boys.
isn't Fresno State anymore, guys. I'm sorry. They're doing okay, but not anything to turn your head at.
Yeah. So yeah, those are our locks of the week. Both Cole and I are taking TCU to cover. Cole's got USC to cover the 3. I've got LSU to lose by less than 17.5. So that means LSU has got to lose by 18 or more. I've got the Chargers plus the 1 against the Raiders, and Cole is taking the Vikings -3 against a very inferior opponent. So that'll wrap up this episode 14 in the books. A longer episode than normal, but a good one. So Cole, any final thoughts before we get out here for this championship weekend?
Just my last thing. I'm not sure if you guys seen it earlier, but lean body, get your lean body. They got the flavors, 40 grams of protein with 0 sugar. So get your lean body, get your lean body.
Get that lean body. So for Will Warner here, back at the house, Cole Murphy signing off. Cole.
It was a dandy.
It was a dandy. Good night, America.